Welcome to Sunday morning at the lab. I know, Sunday morning and I'm working. Taking the Blue Z apart. The box of cogs out there. I should put that somewhere else. It's actually in the way there, but never mind. I should turn the radio off for you too. Hang on. There we go. Increase in points for the cinematography effort there. Something a bit bizarre going on here. I don't recall there being a situation like this in the original setup, but there you go. So when you're using gaskets, especially when people have done aftermarket stuff and things, because we've got the aftermarket downpipe and modified aftermarket downpipe. So this flange is not quite the same, as you've already seen the problem. Not quite the same as a factory flange, and you can see the black sooty stuff that is getting out. It is not staying in the tubes and going where it needs to go. So the gasket that they've used is entirely unacceptable for what's going on in here. For a factory install, fine, except these are not factory turbos and it's not factory downpipe. It's not even actually a factory gasket. It's a factory gasket for that turbo, but it just doesn't work in this particular application. And there's something not right with this oil fitting, and I'm not going to bother trying to figure it out. I'm just going to replace with hoses and stuff. But that tube, I don't recall having to manipulate a gasket to make that fitting fit on there, and I don't recall having issues with the wastegate arm for that turbo hitting that oil pipe fitting. So that's all sorts of wrong. Exactly what is wrong, how, why, don't know. Not gonna worry about it. It's gonna go in the bin. We'll do that with the more modern approach, using hoses and all that sort of carry on. These not these ones, because apparently they blew up the ones that were on there, or someone blew them up, or they ran them out of oil and killed them, or whatever. The original turbos that I put onto the car, they're not there anymore, but these are the same. I put them on right back in about 2005, I think it might have been, something like that, 2005, 2006. So back then, prior to everybody looking at the internet as much as what they do now, and doing things in New Zealand, you kind of just made do with what you had and you made it work. And it all did for a long time. And then someone's made it work not quite as well. So we'll do away with those and put proper hoses on there, 200 series Teflon hoses. This is a starter motor cable, that doesn't live there, it goes over there. And we'll fix some other stuff and things while we're at it. Clearly this is leaking as well, or it's had water leaking from up top there somewhere and onto this and staining this. But I don't expect that gasket to be working terribly well on that one either. There are better downpipes available now, and I could probably even make better downpipes, because as I said, these flanges for these ones are not particularly good. They don't work that well. You have to watch what you're doing with your gaskets to make it seal. So yeah, we'll carry on. The plan is I'll probably take the motor out today. I know it's a Sunday, but I kind of just want to get it out, and then the car's not broken, right? Because the motor's not in it anymore. The broken parts aren't there. I know, bad logic. Guys, if you're putting Z32s back together, just pay careful attention to the engine mounts, the original positions that they were in and the position that you're trying to put it in. Lengths of studs, etc. is a good giveaway that maybe something's not quite right. You'll see that locating pin just above the slot there, and you'll see that the engine mount is not sitting down. It's not sitting flush with the cross member, so the whole engine's hanging up on that little locating stud that's only there to stop that mount turning while you do up the nut on the stud on the other side. So it's just something to watch out for. Another little trap they fell into. So yeah, whole engine's, this is going to be a tiny amount, but the whole engine's rocked across to the driver's side by whatever it is. This side here is very hard to see. Looks like it might be right. Maybe. No, it's wrong. So both mounts were wrong. They're hanging up. Pretty easy trap to fall into. Yeah. No surprises. There's going to be a plethora of that sort of stuff in here, I'm thinking. So we're about to drain the oil out of that beastie there. So very important in this sort of situation with everything that's going on. Make sure your tray's nice and clean. This is not 100% totally perfect, but it's pretty good. It's good enough for what we're doing. A few scratches and stuff in there. One or two tiny little bits that I need to take care of. So when you drain the oil into there, you want to let it settle for a little bit before you ditch it into your waste oil or whatever, or perhaps a container to capture it and store it, just in case. Because when people start arguing over what was right and what was wrong and who's talking rubbish and someone's trying to set them up and all that sort of carry on, you want to have your ducks in a row so that the fingers aren't going to be pointed in your own direction too hard. Yes, people like that, but never mind. So we haven't seen any evidence of any issues with oil or bearings or anything like that at this point in time, but I just don't want to get caught out by that. So we'll pull that bung out of there. It is on that side. Yeah, there it is there. Pull that bung out of there and stick that black stuff in there, and then we're a little bit closer. Engine mounts are undone. Everything's off the back of the motor. We'll head to the front end and deal with all that stuff and then stuff at top. And this can come out. That's that taken care of. Oh, it's doing its best to blow everywhere. I should close the door and then mind. I don't recall fitting a total loss oil cooling system to the alternator. But it appears to have now. It's a small leak there. We need to look into that. They don't like that. It's a common fault on these cars. Oil going onto alternators causing bad things. Bad. So of course, I've taken the oil filter off. We'll put that in a box or something. Keep that. Obvious reasons. Same reasons as before. If there's issues inside the motor, this is going to tell a good story as to what we found when we took it apart. Oil is it's not particularly clean, given the relatively low mileage on the motor. It's quite dark, so that's not a very good sign for what's happening with the rings and stuff. And I mean, with the passenger side, left hand side bank running so crazy rich, it would not surprise me if we got quite a lot of ball wash and whatnot going on. Bad things, to summarize in layman's terms, bad things happening inside there. Yeah, keep going, get this apart. Even after all the cleaning and flushing and everything, still a bit of crud on that radiator cap, which is never a good sign. Never mind, that's, as you can hear, draining away, and we'll get on with undoing a whole heap of stuff and things on top here. A lot of improvements can be made on this now, a few years later. A few changes in availability of fittings and stuff like that, so we can make a much nicer, tidier job of this. For instance, Speedflow, they do a fitting now that goes straight from here to here. You don't have to do a little adapter, which I've done inside there. That'll just tidy that up and does away with the hose clamp and all that sort of carry on. There's just bits and bobs like that. We're going to go 200 series hoses instead of, I think these are 100. I think that's actually, that's not actually properly tight here. Something going on. Bad things happening with this car. What? Yeah, we'll just get rid of it. I'll probably put the fuel filter somewhere nicer. This is great for servicing and stuff, but I'll do a proper bracket on it and put it somewhere nicer. We'll just tidy the whole thing up. Things like bits of paint missing and stuff like that. While the engine's out, we'll fix all that for it. Make it look nice. Yeah. I mean, it's a great car, apart from the fact it was broken, but it's still a great car condition-wise, but we can improve a lot. So bits and pieces flying off. Turbo outlet pipe on the driver's side, that's metal in there. Pretty sure. Haven't touched it, just looked in there and it's metal. Silicon coupler damaged upon assembly. Who knows, possibly guilty of that in the past, don't know. Just something I've just spotted just now. And one of these pipes, discharge pipes here, is a little bit of metal, evidence of metal in there. Not so much that one. So unfortunately that's the one that comes up to the throttle. So we're not looking all that great at the moment. but we'll see what we find inside, whether that's gone through and damaged the balls or not. We'll probably find, depending on what the failure mode was of the engine, what got destroyed. If turbos had spat wheels to pieces and fired all the crap through there, then it could be in the intercoolers and stuff. Like, I didn't see it, I don't know anything about all those details, so we just have to figure this out as we go. Yep, so the fun and games continues. These 3 bolts that hold the water manifold on the front of a VG30, they, funnily enough, do not have to be torqued up to 65,000 foot-pounds of torque. You shouldn't be just about snapping Allen keys. That's twisted now. To undo these bolts, it's a common thing. We seem to find it all the time. People just go completely sick with their rattle gun and over torque it, and you end up having to put spanners on the end of Allen keys to get them undone after giving them a hit with a hammer and a punch first. So that's fun and games. Let's get those off and we'll have a look at this cam timing. That's going to be exciting. Is Glenn right or is Glenn wrong? Okay, stuff and things taken off the front there, some of them frustrating to say the least, but we do have a new cam belt on there, which if they used the marks on the cam belt should have helped them get the timing right. So I mean, there's a little bit of doubt on my assumption or my guess or my diagnosis that the cam timing's wrong. Maybe not. Let's see. We'll have to suss that out, and we'll have to use some tricky techniques to confirm or deny that. I see they've marked everything. Like, I mean, that's one sort of policy, right? Mark everything and you can't go wrong. You're not going to fit those exhaust cam pulleys onto the inlet camshafts anyway. There's only one bolt on the inside of the inlet camshafts. It's impossible to fit those in correctly, and the camshafts, if you put the inlet camshaft in the exhaust camshaft position on the head, then you shouldn't be working on cars at all anyway. I see there's appear to be new idler pulleys, new tensioner, maybe. Doesn't look that new, could be an old one, hard to know, but certainly the tension's set wrong. You're not supposed to have that gap there. That doesn't look right to me at all without fishing out the manual and going back and reading things to confirm, but it does not look right. Actually a little bit of rust on that idler there, questionable whether that is actually new or not. They do rust quite quickly, so I don't know, maybe not. So basically what I'm going to do at this point in time is rotate the engine around to TDC and look up the online service manual, and it tells you the tooth count that you should have between the timing mark wherever it is there and the timing mark there on these, and it tells you the tooth count from here down to the bottom and around the top and all that sort of carry on, so you can ignore the marks on the belt. I have seen one of those belts wrong in the past. The timing marks on the belt were incorrect. Easy trap for somebody who's not expecting that sort of thing to fall into, but I have seen it, come across it. Fortunately, I looked at where the other marks lined up against the back plate and said, this just doesn't look right. Did the counting of the teeth technique, and hello, our marks are wrong on the belt. So let's get on with that, see where we're at. Alright, out with the factory service manual, virtual factory service manual. Check the tooth count for the cams on the belt, or check the belt tooth count for the cams. That's a mouthful, isn't it? That's actually right, at least at the top here. Could be all of them, could be advanced one or back one, maybe probably not, but that side of it is right. So cam timing is actually okay. We've still got to figure out why we've got all these plugs were heavily fouled and the other side weren't. So having a look, sometimes people plug in the variable cam timing plugs into the detonation sensor plug, which will make one cam advance and retard. There's the cam there, the mechanism, and the other one won't. There is a wire though. That should be grounded onto something I'm picking. It's not. Maybe that's got something to do with it. We'll figure that out. I'll run through and do some tests. See where that goes, or is supposed to go, whether it's something that's supposed to be there now or not. There are a few things that have been deleted from this motor, so it could be something to do with that. So if it's If it's not the cam belt timing being wrong, and the variable cam gears are correctly wired at the other end, the solenoids. I'll look a little bit deeper into this, see what's happened. I have no idea whether this had aftermarket camshafts in it. Definitely, when it left here, it absolutely did, 100%. Maybe one of them's been damaged and they've put a standard camshaft in one spot, and there's the other three are aftermarket or something like that. Who knows? I did have somebody, ironically, he was in Hamilton, contact me some time ago. It probably would line up with the time frame for this job, and he did want a camshaft for one of these motors. So wouldn't that be ironic? Right, keep going and see what I can find. It's not far from being pull it out of the hole, but it's also just after 3:30 on a Sunday arvo, so that might happen tomorrow. Basically, at this point, I've got to get power steering lines or pump disconnected, and the remainder of the harness, there's not a heck of a lot left still attached to the motor. Fuel lines, obviously, I'll leave them till last because fuel stinks and it's yucky and I don't want to deal with it until I absolutely have to. Yep, if it wasn't broken before, it is now. It's getting, I mean, it's Sunday. It's late enough on a Sunday. I should really get the engine stand and put that on the engine stand. Then makes Monday morning nice and easy. But I'm probably not going to. I think I'll just leave that there. I think that's good enough for today. Now, normally back in the day, I'd have this whole job start from, you know, put the car on the hoist to that's on an engine stand. Normally done in 4 hours or so. But with this particular job, we're trying to do a little bit of diagnostics along the way. It's just that little bit more fiddly than what you normally get. So it's taken a little bit longer than that because we've been fluffing around, checking cam belt timing and stuff. So probably the first thing I'm going to do with this is, because we've got those spark plugs screaming out problem. There's red lights flashing. Bam, bam, warning, Will Robinson, danger, danger. So I'm going to pull the camshafts out of it. We'll get those away to Calford's or someone like that. Get them measured up and make sure we haven't got a funny camshaft in there or something like that. There's got to be something going on there. And we need to suss it out, see where it's at, figure it out. We don't want to put this all back together and have a problem that's going to take 8 or 9 hours worth of work to get in there and fix. Speaking of fix, there is no fix. Don't worry, don't panic. I said I was going to put the fancy still-in cover on here, didn't I? I talked about that in the previous video, and you guys have been watching the video and going, Glenn, you didn't put the cover on. It is tucked away somewhere, and to be honest, I do not know where. But don't worry, we're very, very careful with it. There was actually someone who came along for a little visit. Was helping me out for a little bit. We're watching, communicating, talking, shooting shooting the breeze, is that what they say? Probably use some coarser language of that in New Zealand, but having a bit of a yarn, so yeah, very careful. There's no scratches, she's still just as beautiful. That actually is even though I basically built most of it, or painted it and all that sort of stuff, so it's kind of sort of my old baby, but that is a nice car, eh? Definitely is a nice car. Painted wing mirrors and door handles or not. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll try and upload this. YouTube videos are taking forever at the moment. Oh, big ugly face. So I'll get this edited as quickly as I can. Try and get it up. You might see it by 8 o'clock tonight. So those of you who have been hanging around waiting for videos popping up at what were my traditional times, 5, 6 o'clock, just go have a look a little bit later, or the next day. Right, so have a good week at work. I'll be here, I'll be carrying on with this. We'll get this ripped apart tomorrow. See what we find inside here. Might be a bit frightening, but all good. Thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.